Ready to roll on this? Okay. So hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Aguilar, and I know you know I'm the president of SPJ. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight for this Delegate Task Force Town Hall. Tonight, we'll be hearing your feedback on the recommendations by the SPJ Delegate Analysis Task Force to replace the current delegate voting system with a one-member, one-vote system. We will also be hearing your input on other recommendations that involve membership issues. Joining us tonight is the head of the task force, Adam Sennett, and Ashanti Blaze Hopkins, who's also on the task force committee. Here are the guidelines. There will be, this will be a 1-hour session. Everyone gets 2 minutes to speak, 2 minutes to speak. President-elect Claire Regan has graciously agreed to keep time. She will be giving you a 30-second warning, okay? When she says your 2 minutes are up, they're up. I don't want to mute anyone. Board members will be listening to your feedback. Some of them are here. Some of them will watch the recording because some of them are still working right now. Yes, this is a recorded session, and whatever you put in the chat will also be part of the SPJ record. The board, including me, will not be answering questions about the recommendations. The board will vote on the task force recommendations on Saturday, June 4th. If approved, they will be sent to the Bylaws committee, who will draft the language for the bylaws that ultimately the delegates will vote on at the convention. Okay, let's get started. Let's be positive, productive, and respectful, okay? That's important for all of us. Adam, please give us a brief insight into the recommendations, such as a refresher for tonight, please.
Yep. So as I'm sure you all know, I was the chair of the Delegate Analysis Task Force. The recommendations we put forward, as Rebecca mentioned, one is to move away from the delegate system and go to a one-person, one-vote system. The other recommendation is to provide SPJ members no fewer than 60 days to provide feedback and suggestions to the Bylaws committee before proposed bylaws changes move from the Bylaws committee to the board for consideration. The third recommendation is for only the board to be, the board would be the one to interpret, the only body to be able to interpret what the bylaws mean. The fourth is for SPJ headquarters to resolve our membership issues, which I know John has been working tirelessly on. And then the fifth recommendation, I think I got them mixed up in there. But yeah, the fifth recommendation here I have listed as the board interpreting the bylaws on the majority board. So yeah, I think that's where, I think I've got them all. If I missed any, my other task force members can jump in.
And just make sure everybody, thank you, Adam. And just make sure everyone, you know, we have everything posted. John Schurz, our executive director, made sure all the recommendations, everything you need to read is there on our website. Maybe John, you can put the link to that page in the chat for them, just in case someone missed it. But it's also good for you to do your own research, you to get your own interpretation. And of course, Adam is always available. You can email him and ask him any questions about that. Adam, you said that Bill wanted to ask, tell us a few things.
Oh, yes, so Bill Blyer has a secondary proposal as well, which would add an ability for members to put forward a petition to bypass the board if they wanted to move bylaws recommendations on their own. So Bill can talk about that. Bill, the floor is yours, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thanks, Adam. I just want to point out that I've been an SPJ member for 4 decades, chapter president, regional director, and chapter membership chair. So I sort of understand, I think, both sides of the equation, but having talked to the Adam and other members of the committee, I've gone full circle from being a big, delegate, a chapter delegate advocate, to saying that the system is unwieldy and outdated, and we need to go to the one person, one vote. It'll solve the whole question of dealing with people who aren't in chapters. It'll solve the problem of the communities and how they should be represented, and also resolve the problem of any potential abuses by people who set themselves up to be regional delegates. I had 2 recommendations. One is sort of a clarification rather than any change in what's been proposed, and that is that any bylaws changes would come to the business session, be discussed, debated, and then everybody would vote on them electronically, just as they vote for officers now. I guess the biggest change I'm recommending is an amendment having been a renegade, fighting the board in the past when the board wasn't receptive to the chapters. I think we need to change this proposal so that the ultimate authority remains with the chapters and the members. So what I'm recommending, after consultation with members of the committee, is that if there's a recommendation that the board and bylaws committee reject, that a petition from 250 members spread over at least 10 chapters could bring something to the floor over the objections of the board and the bylaws committee. Then it would have to be submitted 30 or 60 days before the convention and then be voted on up or down at the, discussed at the business meeting, then voted on electronically afterwards without amendment, because we want to avoid last minute ill thought out amendments. But at least this puts the ultimate authority where I think it belongs with the members. And that's it.
Well, thank you, Bill. I appreciate you bringing up that proposal. I also appreciate all the time that you've given to our organization. 4 decades is a long time. So, I appreciate that insight, because you do have what they call institutional knowledge over someone like myself. So I appreciate you. All right, let's open up the floor to whoever wants to talk in favor or not in favor of this. You can raise your hand or just, whatever. I'm going to go with Brian Collister.
Thank
Please,
you,
go ahead.
Rebecca. I appreciate it. I am the chair of the Awards and Honors Committee, and I just wanted to weigh in and say that I want my vote to count. And I think that we should shift from the delegate system to the single vote per member. And that's what I hope happens. And appreciate you letting me weigh in on the topic.
Thank you so much for your feedback. Appreciate it, Brian. Elizabeth Donald. Elizabeth, can you hear us?
Sorry, I'm simultaneously packing. So I confess to being somewhat ambivalent here, and my primary concern is that so far, at least in my region, Region 7, participation in remote voting has been, the best word I can think of is abysmal. I have tried to encourage our own members to vote, but I'm just remembering off the top of my head, I think in the last election, maybe a dozen people in 5 states. And I'm wondering, how can this work? Do we have a plan in place, or are the proposals for encouraging people to vote remotely? At least when we have delegates in a room, we all vote. And how can we encourage greater participation in that vote if all these decisions are made by remote?
Good question, Elizabeth. Adam?
Can I? Okay, yeah. So there's certainly things we could do to encourage people to participate. I think that it's worth noting that I don't think as the task force we're expecting 5,000 or 6,000 members to all participate in an electronic ballot. I reached out to Dorothy Tucker, the president of NABJ. NABJ and NAHJ both have one person, one vote systems, and I asked her how the system works for them, and she said that it works really well. She said that they get about a 20% participation rate for their national elections, and that it's less for proposed bylaws changes. So the expectation isn't necessarily that we're going to get a lot of people participating, but that everybody will get a vote. Currently, right now, people are at the mercy of their chapters to represent them. And one of the things that we discovered as a task force was that the majority of chapters don't participate in the system. Last year, there were 93 chapters that met the requirements to have delegate votes, and only 54 actually sent representatives to the convention, and 39 just skipped it. There were also 81 chapters that didn't meet the requirements and just didn't get representation at all. So 54 chapters were represented, 120 weren't. And then when it came to the regional delegates, seven regions weren't represented at all. So we already have a really big participation problem as it is. And this would give everybody the option to participate.
And Elizabeth, I wanted to share with you that I am the former vice president of NHJ 4 years. And, did all the members vote? No, but we always had a good turnout when it concerned any topic we had to cover with a vote. The participation is there. Is it all, 100% of the members of NHJ? No, but it's been working fine for several years. But that's a very good question. Thank you so much for your feedback and for the question. I'm going to go with Dan. You have to unmute yourself?
Right, right.
Yeah.
I couldn't find my mouse there for a second. One thing I would ask of John, and maybe Adam might have the numbers, because I don't remember this from the committee meeting. How many people, we already vote for officers online. So what kind of participation do we have already for online voting? And by adding issues such as resolutions and bylaw changes and all the other business stuff, that might actually draw out some more people. So I just don't remember what the numbers are for the online voting so far.
Well, we'll let,
I just looked that up as you were talking. So in the last election, we had just under 1,000 participants that voted, just under, like 950 or something like that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I can tell you historically, it's actually been a little higher. That might have been because of COVID and no in-person convention, because historically it's been around 1,000 or 1,100. But I think without an in-person convention, that might explain why it was a little bit less. So around 1,000 more or less, just based on my experience of doing it for a couple of years.
thank you, Alex, for that feedback. And John, thank you for those numbers. Who else? Sonny Alvarado. Hi, Sonny.
Hey, hi, Rebecca and everyone. I just wanted to say that Bill Bleyer's recommendation for an amendment to the proposals would go a long way to easing some of my concerns about the task force recommendations. But you know, in looking at what NHJ and NEABJ and others do with one member, one vote, I noticed that I think almost all of them have a governance committee, from the board, and that's something I don't think SBJ has done very well. So in terms of if the board approves these changes and puts them to the delegates, I think it would behoove the board to tell how they're going to implement it. Is there going to be a governance committee? Or are they going to, pay attention to what's going on? That's all I had to say. Thanks.
Excellent feedback. And then definitely, I mean, it is important to make sure our SPJ membership doesn't think, okay, we're just going to dissolve one system for something that is not ready to support. So it is important, Sonny, you're right. And I hope that we get the guidance that we need in that area. So thank you for the feedback.
Can I just ask Sonny a quick question?
Yes.
I'm just for clarification. When you say they have a governance committee, is that similar to SPJ's bylaws committee?
I hadn't thought about that, but that,
Okay.
I wasn't thinking of the similarities in the two bodies, but
Just to echo Adam, I want to say my comments to the end, but I was thinking the same thing. And we can talk at the end whether it's the same,
Okay.
but definitely that's partly what the
All right.
bylaws committee does.
And let's hold that, because Alex will have a moment to talk, because she's the person that's going to get the language. If it's the board approves this on Saturday, her bylaws committee will be working on the language. Dwayne Pullman.
Hi, everyone. Thanks. I'm with the Cincinnati chapter, and obviously there's a good bit of resistance from some of the leadership on this, and I don't want to speak to the leadership. I'm here as an individual. I chair the Professional Standards and Ethics Committee, and we've had a really great time. I'm kind of a newbie to SPJ, but I'm not a newbie to boards. I was on leadership for many years with investigative reporters and editors, and cut my teeth at IRE on all of these complicated issues. And I don't see this as all that complicated. I'm still trying to assess what the resistance is, because this is what my muscle memory is for all boards, which is a democratic one vote for one person. It's very inclusive. And I've heard the argument that how are we going to get participation? I was elected to the IRE board with roughly 10 to 15% of the vote. That's usually right around where the participation level is. But it draws in a rotation of people. So I firmly back the concept of one person, one vote. I know where the delegate system came from. I understand it. I'm not sure about the pushback. I've heard it described by some who resist this as non-democratic, when in reality, the most democratic thing you can do is one person, one vote.
30
So,
seconds, 30 seconds, Dwayne.
yeah, I just want to give my support to the concept. I want to back the idea of moving it forward. And this is not allegiance to anyone. I trust the smart people to get this right. I don't think you're going to upend this organization by removing this delegate system that appears to me from a newbie point of view, not working all that well. That's my thought.
Thank you, Dwayne. Just a reminder that I believe, and I'm pretty sure on this one, that we're the only journalism organization with a delegate system. The majority, and I'm also a member of NPPA, IRE, yeah, so just wanted to put that out there that, you know, we do have this delegate system that's, you know, very unique. First time I had ever heard of it when I joined myself. Anybody else? Am I not seeing any hands? Anybody else? Okay, anybody? Oh, yes, Pamela. Yeah, I see you, Pamela.
I'm with the Utah Headliners chapter, and I'm speaking only for myself, but I strongly support the one member, one vote system. And I also like Bill's idea about allowing members to bring a petition and bring something to the floor. So, and again, I strongly support both of those.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you for being here tonight too. Good to see Utah here. Anybody else? Am I missing anybody? Okay, Jennifer.
I just want to, sorry, I don't want to dominate. Is what I'm hearing true that we have numerous past presidents supporting this as well? Are they on the record supporting this one member, one vote?
Okay, let me address that. Yes, I have, and Adam have gotten several letters from different presidents in support of one vote, one member, but I didn't, you know, I haven't solicited letters from the other side, so I don't want to say who they are at this moment.
I understand.
Okay, so, you know, because we have to be fair to everybody, but thank you for bringing that up. Elizabeth, before I go to you, I think there was somebody.
Jennifer Ellis.
Yes, Jennifer, go ahead.
So, well, something I heard Bill say last time was that he also proposed making sure that there was still a debate session, and I didn't hear him say that today.
Bill, would you like to address that debate system in?
Yeah, basically, I was trying to stay in the 2 minutes, but the way I envision it is the first business session would still function pretty much the way it always has: bylaws, resolutions, any other business, and then rather than delegates voting, it would go to the full membership, just like the elections, you know, after that first business session. So people could discuss it, you know, debate it, and the only change would be that it would be a vote for everybody. The session would be online, so people could watch it. So I actually think you'll have more participation because it's a lot easier to, you know, tune in electronically than it is to get to the convention.
Yeah, very good. Jennifer, anything else? You want any follow up to that?
I just wanted to, like Sunny said, Bill's recommendations do make me feel a lot better about the possibility of this. I just do think that having the debate session or a session to talk about the bylaws, resolutions, and the bylaws and the resolutions is really important. I even told you before, Rebecca, the first time I remember hearing of you was 10 years ago when you talked about, you know, when SPJ voted on a resolution to bar saying illegal aliens and in favor of other term. So I just think that those are important discussions, and I would really hate to lose those type of conversations. I think those are really important.
Yeah, definitely. We need discussions. And one of the things that I can tell you about NHJ, when we're talking about issues where we want change, the beauty of it is it's open. Anybody can talk. Now, this was before the online and the Zooms, but you were able to talk. As I recall, back in 2010 in New Orleans, when I was allowed to speak before the delegates, I had to get permission, I don't know, from the president at the time. And I remember that big divider you guys had. You had the delegates, it was the haves and have-nots, in my opinion, the delegates and then the other people. And so the beauty of, like with NHJ, it's very different. It's everybody's there. Everybody has a voice. But I think Jennifer is right. We have to, I don't like to talk debate. It just seems so, a discussion. It's important that we all have our voice. And hopefully wherever we go in this, that we all continue having a voice. So thank you, Jennifer, for that input. Elizabeth, I'm going back to you.
Thank you. I forgot to mention before, I wanted to thank the committee for making such a high priority on fixing the membership count issue. And I think that's one we can probably all agree on. It's something that's been quite a mess for my board, as half of my board members are not currently showing up as members of our chapter. So I'm really glad that that's going to be addressed. I am curious about the impact on the conference. I know it was mentioned in the packet that was sent to me on how we can keep the conference lively if the chapters are not required to send delegates. I know not all of them are doing so, and whether that's going to be addressed going forward, maybe making the conference in less expensive cities or something, other measures that could be undertaken to make the conference more accessible to more people when they're no longer required to be there.
Mm-hmm. Well, Elizabeth, let me just say from my point of view, again, I've been a member of NHJ since 1986. We've never had a delegate system over there, but let me just say, people keep going. In fact, I'm going to NHJ's conference in Vegas with NEBJ, and it's pretty much already sold out. So if people want to go, they're going to go. It's not going to be because, and I love, I've been a delegate maybe once or twice. I never went to the convention because I was a delegate. I wanted to be around other people and network and, meet people like you or anybody else. So I'm confident that, people will come whatever way. Again, if we have the delegate system, they'll go. But if we don't have a delegate system, the beauty of journalists is they love to network. You know that. And thank you for bringing up the membership point of view. Again, this is something under my presidency and the board that has been a headache and a thorn in my side. But we're working closely with our executive director. And, again, I'm sorry for the issues, but, I'm working on it, and so is my board, and so is the staff. So thank you so much. All right, Ashanti, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of what you just said, Rebecca, to Elizabeth's question. I would also just encourage all of us to think about the regional conferences that we all have. We don't have delegate systems in any of those, and they are fairly well attended, right? So if you don't even want to look at other organizations and, NAHJ, AAJA, NABJ, IRE, all of those are very well attended, but just look inside to what we're doing chapter and community wide, right? If you look at those regional conferences, we don't have a delegate system. We don't have any of that at those particular gatherings, and they're still very well attended. So I just wanted to kind of throw that in there as well.
Yeah, and I'm so proud of the regional coordinators. I mean, they put some kick-ass conferences together. I didn't get to go to all of them in person. I was able to go to some that were online. They were hybrid. I mean, really great stuff. I mean, it's just, if people want to go, they're going to go. They're just going to go. And right now, I think many out there, we've kind of saved our money because it's been 2 years of pandemic. And I see that, some of these other conferences are happening other than the News Leaders Association, they canceled. But I'm seeing that people are going, they're taking their precautions because of the pandemic, but they're going. So wishful thinking, but, realistic also. All right, anybody else? Yes, Susan, go ahead. You got to unmute yourself, my friend.
Okay, there we go. Okay, first of all, I think that we're forgetting the importance of the national conferences in terms of professional education. The development sessions are superb, and there are so many, it's hard to choose which one to go to at a particular time because there may be 3 that are interesting. And the pro developments conference or component, I think, should not be forgotten as we debate this issue. And as far as regional conferences go, in Region 5, we generally buddy up with another region because attendance is low. And most of the people at the regional conferences are students. They're not professionals, even though there are still very good professional development sessions that the professionals could learn from. So Region 5 has not ever done a delegate system, nor have our partners that I know of. So anyway, don't forget the educational value of the conferences. I think that means more to most people than whether or not it's one person, one vote.
Yeah. Excellent feedback, Susan. Definitely. I mean, that's why I go. You know, I've been a journalist for decades, but I still go for the educational value. I mean, sometimes, you know, you see the freelance community, they have one thing going on and one thing, and I'm like struggling, where do I go first? So education is key. I think the things that we're going to plan for this convention are going to be great. I think that so far, when you guys find out who the fellows of the society are coming out, are you going to go, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. But Susan, you're right. It's about the education. It's what we're learning to keep going in this crazy world of journalism. So thank you so much. April, go ahead.
Everybody, I'll make this super quick. Just wanted to follow up on a question I had asked at the first session. Generally, I support the idea of one member, one vote. I think that would be a good change for the organization. I would, though, ask the board to maybe have a discussion about the motion that failed the committee about requiring a 2/3 supermajority vote for bylaws changes. I think a majority vote is fine for a resolution that we approve at a business meeting, but I think a change to the governing documents maybe ought to have a higher standard. And I think 2/3 would also keep us in line with other organizations in addition to the one person, one vote. So would just encourage the board, if you have time, to have a little bit more of a discussion about the pros and cons of that. And again, one person, one vote is a good move, but would like to just hear a bit more discussion about a 2/3 majority for changes to the bylaws.
April, I'd appreciate you sent me an email on that, please,
Sure.
just to make sure that I discuss it and you know, think about that. But I appreciate your recommendation, but send it to me in writing. I'd appreciate it. I think you know my email.
Sure.
We'll take it from there. Thank you. Let me see. Anybody else? Anybody else? Because we do have a half hour left. I mean, of course, we don't have to fill up a half hour. April, anything else you want to ask me? Okay. Anybody else? Any questions? Any comments? All right.
Hey,
Alex.
Rebecca.
Yes.
Hi, this is Laura
Hi,
Downey.
Laura.
Hi. I just want to jump in really quickly and say, as I'm listening to everybody, I'm with SPJ Georgia Pro Chapter. I'm for having my own vote, and I think it's important that I have my own voice. So that's what I'm just going to put out there. Thank you.
Laura, thank you so much.
No problem.
Yes, I appreciate that you came by and appreciate to see Georgia represented here tonight. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Anybody else? All right, so I'm going to turn this to, so, you know, again, if the vote votes against the recommendation on Saturday, boom, it goes out. But if the board votes for the recommendation, then we turn it over to Alex Triquenio, the Bylaws Committee. And Alex, you know, fill us in that area, please.
Okay.
Whoops. And your audio just went out, my friend.
Hello? Okay.
Yeah, gotcha.
Good. Sorry about that. Okay, and I didn't have prepared remarks because I wanted to respond to your questions and comments. So if you will bear with me, I will go through and respond to the comments. But first, I do want to go over the timeline for everyone here, and you can share it, of course, with your boards. I will be actually bringing one policy that is actually related to bylaws amendments to the meeting on Saturday, and I'll explain during my comments here when we get to that part why that is. But otherwise, everything we're working on, we're planning to bring a full report to the July meeting once Rebecca's board votes on Saturday. If they vote this up or down, or if they have modifications, you will send it to my committee with directions. And we will definitely be bringing you something at the July meeting. But I want to go through all the questions and comments. I heard great things here. I also have notes from the previous town hall. And I'll also have some questions for you all to think about. And if you have further comments you want to make, the best way is probably to send them to Rebecca. She's on the, if you have my email, you can get it, you can copy me, or Rebecca can forward them to me. First of all, the meetings. I think Bill and actually several people mentioned the meetings. I'm in the middle of drafting a memo. Okay, so there's three things I'm doing. I'm doing the, obviously the bylaws amendments my committee will work on, policies and procedures that the board has, which we'll get to in a minute, and also just memos for guidance to Rebecca and the board for how this might be implemented, which will ultimately, all of that will filter onto the delegates. Because that's the system we have now, it will be the delegates deciding on what to do in this fall's convention in October. So the first thing is the meetings at convention. I'm working on a memo. It begins with explaining how those meetings have looked in prior in-person conventions. And that's important because of the pandemic. For the last couple of years, we haven't had in-person conventions. We've had many leaders, fortunately, rise up through the chapters who might be coming who've never attended one of these before. So I want to explain what the meetings have looked like until 2 years ago, and what they might look like if the delegates support one member, one vote. They would obviously be rebranded SPJ membership meetings rather than delegate meetings. As Rebecca pointed out, there'd be no more barrier. If you have attended in the past, either as a delegate or as a non-delegate member, there is a little barrier where everyone forward of that is a voting delegate. Members are behind that. They don't have a vote, although if they do want to make a statement, they can still be recognized to speak. That would go away under one member, one vote. There would still be membership meetings. Members could still meet. And this is, by the way, how it is in many of our fellow organizations in journalism associations. They do allow every member at the conference to show up to the membership meeting. And it might look a little different in the going forward because of the pandemic. We might also have a hybrid conference. So we might have people who can't even be there represented on the floor. So that's the first change. Now, what would actually be discussed and how the voting would go forward, that's a big one thing I haven't heard much of today, and I mentioned in the last meeting, we talked a lot about bylaws. Bylaws and resolutions are two very different things, and they are handled very differently. Bylaws are obviously included in the SPJ governing bylaws now, how they may be amended. And they typically have started with the bylaws committee. Someone, like in this case, there'll be a task force, the board will refer to the committee. We work on bylaws amendments. Resolutions almost always originate with the members. You don't have to be a member of the board or the resolutions committee. In fact, they normally are not. They usually originate with chapter members, and you don't even have to be a delegate to propose a resolution. So it might look different. The members might discuss the resolutions and the bylaws in different ways. And that's one thing that we'll be discussing over the next month or so if Rebecca's board approves this, how that will look. And we want to get input from you. Now, the other thing, so that was the first issue that I heard. What would the SPJ membership meetings look like if we don't have delegates? The second thing was what I lumped into checks and balances. What if the board does not want to recommend in the future? What if we have one member, one vote? It's not the delegate system and the board doesn't recommend a bylaws change. We have a system now where the chapters can also recommend bylaws changes. That is in place. It is basically one sentence in the bylaws now without a lot of explanation. And that is the one proposal that I will be bringing to Rebecca's board meeting this Saturday, June 4th. whenever the bylaws just lay down the bare minimum, but don't get into policies and procedures, it is up to the board, the national board, to set the policies and procedures. So we're going to bring recommendations for how that would look when the chapters want to recommend bylaws amendments. How many? Right now, the bylaws say that it could be 10 chapters or communities, but don't give much detail. If the board approves that on Saturday, that would apply to this year's convention. So it is important, and that's why we want to bring that in June and not wait for July. But even if we approve one member, one vote, something like that could continue in the future. Or it could be modified based on that. And that's something that would really be up to the delegates to consider in October. But right now, there are checks and balances on the board, and there's nothing saying that if we go to one member, one vote, we could still have checks and balances to override it if it effectively a veto by the board. In terms of Sunny's question about governance, I do see the bylaws committee largely performing that role. We do obviously advise the board if any of their decisions are not complying with the bylaws. We also, it's up to the board to set their policies and procedures, but we all do also give them advice on policies and procedures. I have answered some questions on and off that Rebecca or John have had about policies or the bylaws. But that being said, the board can always assign a governance committee or someone separate from the bylaws if they ever feel the need to. That's obviously within the purview. There's nothing in the bylaws preventing that. Now, other than the nominations committee, most of the committees are actually not detailed what they do in the bylaws. The nominations committee obviously fills a special role, so that is spelled out in the bylaws. And in general, we like to leave it up to the board to decide what the roles of the committee chairs will be. Let's see. Oh, right. April mentioned the 2/3 vote, and I think I have heard that in the past. Why is it a simple majority? That's something that I don't believe was handled by the task force because it really wasn't in their purview. They were assigned, by the way, by a resolution. For those of you who may have forgotten, it was actually a member resolution that created the task force to look at the delegate question. So questions about the 2/3 versus simple majority vote for bylaws, that's something that the board can ask the bylaws committee to look at. And when we get the report and look at it, we can also advise the board, hey, maybe you should look at this. So everything that you've said has been taken note in addition to the last town hall. And if you have further questions, ideas, concerns, something occurs to you this afternoon, we didn't discuss resolutions much, maybe something occurs to you later, I'd say email them to Rebecca. If you like, you can CC me, or if Rebecca wants to ask my committee to look at it, she will forward it to me.
Alex, there's a question from Jennifer in the chat.
Okay. As it's hard to read the
is there
chat
a policies and procedures document?
Yes, there is. It is on our website. I could look it up and try and put that in the comments. There is a book of board policies. One thing you should know is one thing we're looking at this year is perhaps missing policies or policies where we think there are some gaps. And that's why we're bringing this one in the June meeting, because we realized it couldn't wait for July because it would affect proposing bylaws for this year's convention. But the policies is the current policy manual is on the website, and I can look that up and
yeah.
paste
All you have
that
to
in
do is
chat.
Google. It's there.
Yeah, or you could Google SPJ board policies
and procedures. Boom, it'll pop up.
Yeah,
and you can download it. Keep a copy for yourself. You know, the staff has been very good about making sure that we have all the documentation that's needed concerning policies, guidelines, you name it, it's in there. So yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and put it in just to make it easy on people. But yeah, if you don't lose this in the future, you can easily just do what I did, which is type SPJ board policies.
And Jennifer, as an RC, you know, in our as I recall in our training, you know, that was something that was brought up, policies and procedures. So check out what you got in September. I'm sure you're going to find it in your group of documentation. But if not, it's on our website. All right. Hey, Alex, are you done?
That's it. I mean, unless people have questions for me.
Alex, thank you so much on, really giving us an update and making it in layman's terms. Sometimes all that bylaw stuff, it gives you, it's just a lot of stuff. So I appreciate that you make it in layman's terms so I can understand it and everybody here who's visiting or in tune with what's going on. Anybody else? Anybody else? Let me see. What do we got? We got 15 minutes and, I don't mind leaving early. So I just want to make sure. Maybe Pamela, maybe your cat has a question.
Well, actually, Rebecca, I want to make a plug for a program we have coming up with the international community. If we're done with most of this.
Okay, hold on. Let me see. Is everybody done? Is any questions? I don't want to pull anybody. All right. Okay, so I will let Dan make a plug for an event that's very important coming up. And Ashanti may want to talk about, I might as well let you give a plug too. All right, Dan.
Okay, Tuesday at 6 o'clock, the international community is doing a program with the World Affairs editor of USA Today on the Xinjiang police files. And USA Today is part of this global coalition of journalists and journalist organizations that are taking a look at what the Chinese government is doing to basically destroy the culture and lifestyles of the Uyghur people. Israel was kind enough to host for us for that event. You can go to our website, which you can get through the SPJ site, and register for it. It's Tuesday, 6 o'clock Eastern time. We'll be talking about the importance of international coalition in this kind of reporting and why people should be interested in this kind of story.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And feel free to put a link in the chat for our small group here. That's important. And again, I always appreciate what you and Elle are doing with the SPJ international community. You definitely keep me on my toes and keep me informed and everybody else. So I appreciate it. All right, Ashanti, go ahead, do your plug on the.
Okay, well, since we're dropping albums in this call, I will share that the nominations committee is holding our second virtual panel about election tips. We have an election coming up for SPJ for different board positions as well as regional coordinator positions. And so we would love for all of you to run if that is something that is interesting to you. And if you have questions, you don't know what the process is like, you don't know what the roles and responsibilities are for all of these different positions, I encourage you to come. It's going to be on Tuesday as well, but it's going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Central. So I encourage all of you to join, and we will have current and former board members as panelists. Israel is also on that.
Oh yeah, he's running from us straight to you.
Yes,
So.
It's a busy man that night. And then also Alex will be on that panel as well as Chris Vaccaro. So it's going to be very interesting. We had one about a week ago that was, I think, very, very successful. And so we're excited for this one. We also have another one coming up towards the end of June. So if you happen to miss that one, all of these will be recorded so that they can live on the Election Central website of SPJ's website. And that way, if anyone does miss it, they can always look back and see what everyone had to say about their time at SPJ and about the process and about how you too can run, just so that everyone is aware. We have openings right now for the VP position, for the Secretary Treasurer position, and then we have regions 1, 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9 for regional coordinators that are open for this 2022 elections. So please, please, please run.
Ashanti, thank you so much for also heading that committee. And again, we all have different contacts, okay? Reach out to your people. I knew that when I ran for president-elect, I knew immediately who to reach out to that I thought would be great people on my board, great committee chairs, the whole thing. Reach out to those people. I mean, again, I wouldn't be in this position without Alex Triquenio coming to me saying, you need to run. And I thought she was nuts, and I fought it, but in the end, I gave in. And look at me now. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. And so, and I will say that Media Fest information is coming out soon because John gave me and Claire an update today. And we just have a lot going on. And so I'm going to end this. Does anybody else have another question? Okay, because I want everybody to have that equal opportunity. Anybody? All right. So here's the thing. We're going to quit 10 minutes early. I can't believe it. Don't forget about Saturday. John, I have so much on my head right now. What time's the Saturday board meeting?
Eastern.
I'm sorry?
11 a.m. Eastern.
Okay, so that's 10 a.m. Central Time. And, you know, if anybody in California is awake, Ashanti, wake up. Anyway, I will see you on Saturday. Thank you for your input. Thank you for caring to be here tonight. I mean, we could be doing some other things. And so I'm going to let you go. Again, email me. I'm not answering questions on the recommendations. Neither is the board. We will hear your feedback. If you have any specific questions you want to ask Adam, because he ran that task force. Adam, again, put your email in the chat. Ask him. But as for me and my board, we're just here to hear what you have to say, because we have a big decision to make on Saturday. And again, some board members are here, some are not, but they're all hearing the recordings. And we'll be sharing these recordings before Saturday with the rest of the membership. And hopefully they'll be able to listen in. All right. I want to say goodbye to everybody. There you go. Somebody gave, oh, Adam, you're giving away your phone number. Okay. And keep a copy of the chat. I believe you can. Anyway, I will see you on Saturday. Thank you for tonight. Have a good night, everybody. Okay. Thank you, Claire, for keeping my time. John, thank you so much.